A friend of mine visited some of the hermits in the Himalayas, right on the border of Tibet and India. And he said he remembered going kind of on the supply train that went once every 6 months, and the Dalai Lama gave him permission. This was a Westerner who was ordained as a Tibetan monk. He said, I visited this one hermit, and he came out of his cave, and he just was grinning. There was just this sense of light that poured out of him. And I tried to talk to him. I asked him, what practice do you do? He said, practice? I said, yeah, do you pay attention to your body or follow your breath or something like that? And he looked at me kind of quizzically and he said, it breathes itself. It breathes itself. So there are people in caves who that's their way, and they spend a whole lifetime generating compassion and love for every being in the world. I'm really glad they're there, and I believe that they affect us. There are all these different models, and then there are Western models. Sylvia sometimes talks about the first patriarch of Berkeley and the second patriarch of San Anselmo where we live, and the people around us who are the bodhisattvas. So there are all these different ways to do it, and for most people, it's many cycles, sometimes in retreat, sometimes out in the marketplace, sometimes engaged in the world, sometimes with one's family, sometimes back into retreat. Sometimes it's working to help with the environment, really seeing that as your place of Dharma, the ecological necessity of caring for the air and the water and really doing something. Or the sphere of politics. There's a big movement through the Buddhist Peace Fellowship to bring the spirit of Buddha Dharma into social action in the world in many ways. Or in other ways, working, at the local or state or national level politically. Or education, or children. Krishnamurti and the Dalai Lama, I remember asking the Dalai Lama, what would he do if he came to live in America? He said, I would start schools for children, and start them when they were young to learn the Dharma. Krishnamurti did the same thing. His last years mostly focused on education. So all these different expressions. But in our culture, retreats are particularly important, one piece, because we're so busy we need the silence. And because we get so caught up, we need a place to open and be attentive and to go deep so that we can see from some other perspective, so that our consciousness does get altered or opened or cleansed or purified. So our vision opens and we can see reality in a new way, or let things shine even in the difficulties. Each of us needs to listen and honor what is the right cycle for ourselves. Is it the year for a retreat? Or is it the 10 years to raise your child? Or is it the time to serve? Or is it the time to do your work through a creativity or artistic expression? Which is the right thing for you? There is no right way. One can make a good case for all these ways. You can make a great case for social action. There are people who are hungry, lots of them, and they need our love and our money and our caring and our time and our energy. There are chemical weapons and biological, and they're still being built around the world. We still sell billions of dollars of killing machines every year. It's one of our biggest exports. That's what we sell, this country. There are death squads in Guatemala or El Salvador, other places, Lebanon, Tibet. There are homeless people now, endemic, so many places, cold and homeless people. So one thing is to say, we can't wait. Can't just wait till you're completely enlightened, whatever that is. Suzuki Roshi says it nicely. He says, strictly speaking, there's no such thing as an enlightened person. There's only enlightened activity. If somebody thinks they're enlightened, that's not it. So one way is that we must respond because it's so compelling. Someone's child is hungry. Someone is homeless. Yet on the other hand, the roots of that homelessness, the roots of the warfare, the roots of the starvation here and grain elevators full there, are human greed and prejudice and fear and hatred. They come from the human heart. And if that isn't faced, it's just one regime toppling another and becoming repressive again. We've seen it over and over and over. Somebody has to face the forces of greed and prejudice and hatred and delusion and aggression and discover another possibility. And guess who that somebody is? That's us. So to sit in some way is also a radically political act. To face ourselves and to learn how to face those forces and not be taken over by them. And that's what you've done this week. Martin Luther King again, in the difficulties of his march. We will match your capacity to inflict suffering with our capacity to endure suffering. We will meet your physical force with soul force. We will not hate you, but we cannot in all good conscience obey your unjust laws. We will soon wear you down by our capacity to suffer. And in winning our freedom, we will so appeal to your hearts and conscience that we will win your freedom as well. Isn't that extraordinary? And that's the kind of strength found in ourselves that then transforms the world.